Order the Holyoke City Council April 2nd, 2019 meeting. The clerk will call the roll and record those in attendance.
Anderson Burgos.
Here.
Bartley.
Here.
Bresnahan.
Here.
Leahy.
Present.
LeBron Martinez. Here. Lisi. Here. McGee.
Here.
McGivern.
Here.
Murphy.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
Tallman.
Here.
Bacon.
Here.
Valentine.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
in the city of Holyoke.
And the City Council.
First on the agenda is a petition for joint or identical pole location, Verizon and HG&E, Northampton Street, to relocate one pole with the dimensions there. Reason, relocate one joint pole, Northampton Street, to accommodate an electrical company upgrade.
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Just open the public hearing or discussion. Is there anyone here? Is there anyone here?
Motion to refer this to DGR.
Motion is
Second.
referred to DGNR. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 2,
Make a motion, we take it off the table?
motion is to take off item 2 from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 2, that was laid on the table of Committee on Charter and Rules, to whom was referred a resident's petition for supporting a non-binding ballot question as to whether HG&E should offer fiber optic internet for purchase by residents. Petition also implores HG&E to conduct a feasibility study for the rollout. Recommended that it be approved. That came from the committee.
And make a motion, we've got both a ballot question that has been approved by both the law department and the city clerk. And I'm going to just read it, just make sure everybody has had a chance. A quote, the ballot question would read, should the Holyoke Gas and Electric conduct a feasibility study on the gradual rollout of fiber optic internet for residents of the city to purchase, the findings of which would be presented to the public at a city council meeting by April 22nd or sooner. Just like to make a motion that we agree to put that proposal on the ballot.
Second.
Do we have a copy of that up here? Just not seeing it.
April 20th. No, April.
Just so we're clear, we did get a communication on March 27th with regards to the sample ballot question, and then there was an email that went to everyone today with I think what Councilor Murphy had just read, with the update to that ballot question. Any questions on that as to what we're voting on? We're all on the same page?
Can I just hear that again? I don't have it, I can't find it on my
All
computer.
right, so March 27th, the city clerk mailed out from the legal department. Below is the language provided by the law department that was laid on the table regarding the non-binding ballot question. Non-binding public opinion advisory question: should the Holyoke Gas and Electric offer fiber optic internet for purchase to the residents of the city of Holyoke? That was March 27th. What Councilor Murphy just read was a change from legal. They said the petitioners have reached out after seeing the language and suggested the following change. New language would be, should the Holyoke Gas and Electric conduct a feasibility study on a gradual rollout of fiber optic internet for residents of the city to purchase, the finding at which should be presented to the public at a city council meeting by April 2022 or sooner. Councilor Lisi.
I just wanted to thank our legal counsel for putting together the language. I would offer an amendment, and we could also ask legal what they think of it. But it's not a huge amendment. I think it would just help make the question wording seem more like a question as opposed to a statement. So I think it should read, should the Holyoke Gas and Electric conduct a feasibility study on a gradual rollout of fiber optic internet for residents of the city to purchase and present the findings present the findings to the public at a city council meeting by April 22nd, April 2022. So it's really just saying "and," because I think the other way makes it sound like should the Holyoke Gas and Electric conduct a feasibility study, and I think you lose the actual question in there. It sounds more like a statement.
Okay, second to that. So just to be clear, so the one that was presented April 2nd is being offered up as amendment, which would now read, should the Holyoke Gas Electric conduct a feasibility study on a gradual rollout of the fiber optic internet for residents of the city to purchase and present the findings at a city council meeting by April 2022 or sooner.
Yeah.
That was seconded. Under discussion, Councilor Bartley.
Yes, I'll just reiterate what I said last, I don't have a problem with it, but this, for point of clarification, this would go on the November ballot?
Correct.
Okay, and we would specify therein that it's a non-binding question?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's specified in there. And why don't we put anything about the estimated cost of this in the question? Is that not relevant?
You can offer up an amendment, Councilor.
Well, I don't want to just do that. But what I would, with all due respect to everybody, to me, it would be nice if we had the language proposed in front of us instead of, I mean, I know we got the emails and I appreciate that, but it'd be nice if we had the language actually on the agenda and if the public had the language on the agenda. I don't see a reason to rush this through without the language in a written form. So that would be my, I mean, I don't want to make a motion. If the body wants to move this forward today, the first meeting in April for a November ballot question, then that's okay. But I would think it would make more sense to have some verbiage here about the estimated cost between $20 and $30 million, and then I think it would make sense to at least have the language written before us. So that's just my take.
Councilor Lisi.
Thanks. I'll just make a brief comment. I think that putting the price on there may be misleading because it's not going to be taxpayer dollars that would be used to fund that study. It would be Genie ratepayer dollars. And, you know, it's again a non-binding referendum. So the Genie is going to choose to do it or not. We just want to make sure that if they do some sort of study, that the research is presented to the public. And I think that's really where the interests of the petitioners lie, that the information that the G&E is collecting is made available to our residents.
Anyone else? So, Councilor
Right,
Bartley?
yeah. So, I mean, this is not, then you can say it's $20, $30 million cost to the ratepayers, of whom, 99.9% are Holyoke property owners. You could write it like that. That, I mean, to me, I don't see a reason to move this forward tonight. So my motion is then could be to get the language on the second meeting in April, that agenda, so we have it in front of us, so we're not going on memory, and that we vote on it then. So I'm going to make that motion to table.
Motion is to
Second.
table. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Show of hands.
Well, I think they got it.
Your motion is to table.
Yeah, I motion to table.
Hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't have the votes for a table. Back to the original motion, which was a motion to amend the ballot question as read, a non-binding ballot November question. Should the Holyoke Gas and Electric conduct a feasibility study on the gradual rollout of a fiber optic internet for residents of the city to purchase and present the findings at a city council meeting by April 2022 or sooner? That it was the amended language. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nope. Ayes have it. So on the original question, to approve a non-binding ballot question as amended. You want a roll call for this
Yes,
one?
definitely.
We're going to do a roll call. Clerk will call the roll. We're starting with Counselor Leahy. who
He's
will
abstaining.
abstain from this. Go after Counselor Leahy. Counselor Valentin could not make it tonight. She's not feeling well. She did call in. So with that, the clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the non-binding ballot question.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
No.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
No.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Bresnahan.
No.
7 yeas, 4 nays, 1 abstain.
Put your vote, so you need 7 votes for the ballot question. That would be cast. As amended. Public comment. There are 2 signed up for public comment. Laura Clampett from Locust Street. I said that right, correct?
Turn the microphone on first. Okay. I'll keep this brief. Thank you so much for passing the non-binding ballot question. I just wanted to, address some comments that were made previously about the process. I feel like it is really important to have this avenue for the public to go about getting non-binding questions on the ballot because this is not our field of expertise. We're not either in government or in the communications, technology field. We didn't have necessarily the best language to use. So it was really helpful to go through this process and have legal and the council help us amend the language. I'm really appreciative of the various counselors who have helped us throughout this process. So thank you.
Next is Ken LaFave from 277 Suffolk Street.
Just to add to that, yes, I would like to thank those who were able to help us through this process. And I'd also like to add as well that the question is related to a feasibility study. Feasibility studies generally determine costs. Now, the G&E has provided a $20 to $30 million cost for an entire rollout. What we were proposing is that they make use of the more than $10 million of infrastructure they already have in place as a means to reinvest gradually to bring this service over an extended period of time. So I just wanted to clarify that. Otherwise, thank you very much for passing this and thank you for your help.
That ends public comment. Communications, item 3 from the city clerk, a letter regarding the non-binding ballot question. Motion would be to receive, and it was with the other package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 4 is the minutes of the March 19th meeting. Any changes to it? Any suggestions?
Motion received.
Motion is to receive. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5 is the Board of Commission minutes for February 20th. This is the fire department. Everyone had a chance to review this?
Yes.
Motion is to receive.
Motion received.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 6 is a Six Flag
No.
ceremony. It's a little spelling error there, but we're going to call it Six Flags. Ceremony, April 13th, which says Six Flags ceremony, Hoyoke City Hall.
Seek.
I thought it was Six
it's a
Flags.
real
I'm sorry.
thing.
Six Flags. I apologize. I've been corrected. City Hall, Hoyoke,
Your religion.
536 Dwight Street. It's 4/13/2009 at 11.
Motion received.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? I misread. That's what happens. Petition 7, a petition from Life Essence Marijuana Facility.
Motion to send
56 Kelsey.
ordinance.
Motion to send
Second.
ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8, 9, 10, and 11 are renewals.
To suspend rules, take up as a package.
Motion to
Second.
suspend the rules, take up 8, 9, 10, 11 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8, all the taxes have been paid. Same with 9. 10. And 11. So the taxes are current.
Motion to approve the renewals?
Second.
Motion is to approve the renewals. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? President's report. I did say that Councilor Valentin is under the weather, so she won't be here tonight. It's good to have Councilor McGivern back. Other than that, I have no other updates at this time. Anyone else have anything to share? Councilor Murphy.
Just an announcement. I met with one of the pastors from United Congregational Church, and starting this Sunday morning, they are going to have community breakfast in their auditorium at 8:30 to 9:45. It's worship, music, sharing, and celebration. People are not required to attend the ministry or the service, but they are offering breakfast. It is their intention to offer breakfast every Sunday morning from now on. It's my understanding that they'll be going in the Appleton Street entrance, 300 Appleton Street, and it will be in the auditorium. It is handicap accessible, and they are hoping that the community will take advantage of their hospitality and bring people together from all walks of the city and come down. So I just wanted to make sure that announcement got out there. They're also looking at doing some other things, but those aren't ready to be announced.
Councilor Bowe Martinez.
I also would like to announce, seeing that the summer youth program that Mass Higher Holyoke is administering is it's a program that is funded to the city of Holyoke, and we actually are administering that summer youth program. I just want to let you all know that, and those who are watching, that we're having a job fair, and this is the first day of the summer job application being released, April 10th, which is next Wednesday, from 4 to 6 at the War Memorial. And there'll be other businesses coming out to do some youth hiring in 14 to 21.
Councilor Lisi and Councilor Leahy.
Thanks. I just wanted to note that on the 10th, the schools are putting another public information meeting together about the middle school construction projects. I don't have an exact time, but I think it's 6 o'clock on the 10th, and that's going to be at the senior center.
And we have, just a reminder, we have a meeting tomorrow for charter and rules in regards to the question. Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, I just want to say tomorrow night there's going to be a Holyoke Girls Lacrosse fundraiser. It's a paint party. It's at Slancha. It's 7 o'clock. It's open to anybody, and it supports the Holyoke Girls Lacrosse. Nice. Thank you.
Anyone else? No further, then we'll move on to reports of committee. There were no ordinance committee reports. Finance.
Mr. President, if I could ask to make a motion to remove from the Committee of Finance a transfer of $100,000. That transfer would be for the purpose of possible acting on it this evening.
Motion is to
Second.
suspend the rules, take from committee an order for $100,000 from land taken and easements. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? As we know, there was a little mishap on the posting for finance, which was supposed to take place. So this normally wouldn't happen if pulling from the committee. So this is something of a time issue. So it is an order that there hereby be appropriated $100,000 from land taking and easements to 3 different areas. Special counsel services, $80,000. Claims, $15,000. Litigation, $5,000, for the total of $100,000. So the motion would be to receive, adopt, and pass the first reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I
discussion?
could. Mr. President, the request from the Law Department on this is to pay some very old bills. More recently, I think the City Council has met with the Law Department in 2 to 3 executive sessions to keep us updated on litigation that is before the city, and needs for paying special counsel where special counsel is handling litigation on behalf of the city. There also are some claims to $15,000 and items that the Law Department has exhausted all avenues of being able to pay them. I believe that they have briefed the city council on what we need to do, what we need to know in executive session in terms of each of these items. And I believe that this transfer is necessary to pay bills, legitimate bills for vendors and special counsel that have done work for the city of Holyoke. The money is coming from land takings and easements. And as the president pointed out, $80,000 will go for special counsel. The claims are $15,000, and litigation would be $5,000. Our city solicitor is present this evening to answer any questions, and she also has brought invoices to share with what the bills are.
Motion would be to suspend the rules to allow the solicitor to answer questions.
Second.
All those in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Anyone have any questions with regards to the outstanding accounts? Once again, I kind of out of the norm. Normally, I'd have them in finance to look at the bills. It was set up to do that, but unfortunately, there was a mishap. So with that, legal has reached out to us because there are some pressing matters in the sense of paying the outstanding bills, of which if she has invoices, obviously, she can cover what we'd have a question on. Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, what are the bills?
I'm holding a stack here of sheriff bills, mediation, arbitration, outside counsel bills. We did go over it as much as we could in the last finance committee meeting where it was tabled. I mean, we're talking about over $2,000 owed to our sheriff for housing court service process. We also have Chuck Emma, our outside counsel. He's overdue by about 4 months now. Roughly about $10,000 to $12,000 a month, so that's all outstanding. We also have our general tort claims that come out, which is pothole season, and as much as we try and deny what we can and pay what we're supposed to be paying, as well as any tree tort claims, some of those have come through. Like I said, we went through most of it in the last finance committee meeting. Our PACER account comes out of our litigation line item. We've had a couple of grievance hearings. Those go to mediation, so we have those bills to pay as well. I mean, exact figures would sit here and exhaust the entire night, but some of this is also an estimate of what will get us through to July 1. So it's not all exact by any means, but it's certainly what we estimate we're going to need to get us through the rest of the fiscal year.
No, I don't want us to go through it. I'm sure you went over some in the finance committee. Sometimes we just can't make all the subcommittees when we're not a member of the committee. Just for Attorney Emma, that seemed like the bulk of it in your Reader's Digest summary. So, just remind us what's Attorney Emma working on behalf of the city?
He is working on federal court litigation. He is working on the Pagan versus City of Holyoke case, the John J. Smith Jr. versus City of Holyoke case. He's also working on some state litigation, City of Holyoke versus NASD. And that's what I have active for him right now.
And I just want to, we've had a couple executive sessions recently where none of those matters have been raised in executive session. So I'm just going to say just to the president that some of these things that Attorney Emma is working on, it seems like he works on them quite extensively. We should get an update on some of these other matters. I know we have the one matter we've discussed twice now, and there's a finance transfer in that one. So I'm looking forward to that discussion as well. And then just my last one is the $100,000 from land taking easements. So what about that? We don't
It was something that the auditor found that will wipe out the account. It's my understanding that it was reserved for a specific thing that is no longer happening, but I didn't have any control over where the money was coming from. I just requested the money.
Okay, so yeah, because I don't see land taking easements in your budget. So just say that again. What did the auditor do?
The auditor found a line item that we could take the money from. It was her choice where it came from. It wasn't mine.
Did the auditor say where it came from? I mean, I heard the land take easements. I heard that, but I heard that right. But is that part of an account from the law department?
It is not.
So we don't know what department it's from so far.
I don't know off the top of my head. Like I said, it was discussed in committee. I don't.
Right. So, Mr. President, Mr.
Yeah,
President,
I'm listening.
so And just to the presence of Finance Chair, so if I may, Joe, was that count land takers easements, was that department discussed the night you?
The first evening we took this up, that was discussed briefly, but more where the money was going, although Councilor Bartley makes a good point. Transfers aren't just where the money is going, it's also where the money is coming from. Our new auditor has been working hard in this area and identifying surpluses within accounts to avoid using the precious few dollars we have left of free cash. If necessary, she must get a department head signature and the mayor's signature to be able to transfer something interdepartment into another department. The president should have the official request attached to the order. I believe that this land takings and easements would be found under a budget that is controlled by the mayor.
Land taking is 11,452,57950. So 57.
And what department, Mr. President?
That's what we're looking at. It is signed off by Sandra Smith and the mayor.
I think you find this on one of those pages that's controlled, it's not a department, but controlled by the mayor and or the treasurer, which is, I believe, 52 or, I'm sorry, David, do you have that? 52 or 54 in the budget? I'm guessing on that page, but.
Look. Well, I would just say, Mr. President, that, I mean, it sounds like all legitimate expenses. I guess I'm just concerned, A, that we don't know what department it's coming from, and B, we budget for outside counsel in the law department, and we set the budget, and we pass the budget. I mean, I know things come up, I mean, but tort claims, we know potholes are gonna happen all the time. We know outside counsel is gonna happen all the time. It's not clear to me why we don't, I know there's been transition in the law department, I'm not picking on anybody, but to me, if, you know, I mean, we all respect Attorney Emma, and we want him to keep doing his work that he does, and I want him to be paid, and I wish it hadn't gone on this long. But there is a finance committee meeting in between this meeting and our next full city council meeting. So I would say to Mr. President, what's the difference? I mean, why don't we just, I mean, I'd rather just be taken up in finance and reviewed there. I mean, but I mean, I'll defer the finance chair on that if he wants to. I mean, I'm not going to make a motion, but
To legal, can the bills wait to be paid until the next meeting, or is there a?
I mean, we've exhausted all of our efforts to move our funds around. We now have wiped out our supply budget, we've wiped out our training budget, so we've foregone doing anything else in the law department right now so that we can just pay these bills. But some of these are quite outstanding. I mean, we're talking 4 months of bills for outside counsel, and most of the funds were requested and then cut at budget time. So it's not that it wasn't accounted for, it was that when the budget was cut, we then were working with a smaller budget. So now we're asking to actually pay for what is now due and owing. Some of these sheriff fees, I mean, the sheriff will actually show up at our office and pick up our stuff to go and serve it. And it's a wonderful service, and I'd hate to not pay the bills on time. And those are all coming due and owing, and we're talking over $2,000 owed to them right now. So while it could potentially wait another 2 weeks, this has also been requested a while ago.
I understand, like I said, there was a posting to take it up to discuss it, but that wasn't posted correctly, as we all know. Therefore, the meeting couldn't happen That's the reason why we're trying to take it up now to discuss it, but Counselor Bartley has raised a legitimate concern that should have a good vetting to it. So 2 weeks, to me, if there isn't a push that it can wait 2 weeks, then we can get the answers to that question.
Where's the motion?
There's nothing in there.
Councilor President.
Crystal, do we know, with respect to the sheriff's fees, have we, is there any department head that's been appointed as a constable for the city of Holyoke to deliver notices to issues that resolve with Holyoke?
There's not. We used to use a constable, and the service was less than stellar, so we switched to the sheriff's department.
Right. My question is that there's actually, I was certified by the city clerk to issue, to serve paperwork as a Board of Health Director for the city of Holyoke. Is there any department head, or has that been looked at in order to save funds, where if we need to send a certified letter to John Jones that lives on Appleton Street, that either the building commissioner, the Board of Health Director, or someone sanctioned as such through the city clerk's office that could do that?
It was brought up. We have looked into it. We'd still have to pay them. I mean, it's not a free service by any means.
So I guess I'm owed money? Is that what that means? Because I didn't get paid for that?
I mean, we've looked into it to have somebody else do it, but you're also talking about taking someone away from their general duties, and at $2,000 we owe to the sheriff, that's a lot of service in the city that they'd be doing instead of their daily duties.
I'm not suggesting that they do every single service, but do you know, what does it cost for one service to one Holyoke resident from the sheriff's department?
$25 approximately, 25 to 35.
And the cost for the Western Mass constables?
I don't know off the top of my head what they charged.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else had a question? Councilor Sullivan, sorry.
Yeah, for legal also, how much of this bill is for Attorney Emma, and if possible, how much of that is attributed to the NASD claim?
As of March 31st, I believe we owe him $16,000. I don't see any bills in front of me for the NASD claim at this time.
Yeah, I was just asking because you mentioned that as part of it.
Well, it was asked what cases he's working on, but for the last months that we owe him, I don't see anything in here for the NASD claim.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Is there a motion? We're still on motion to pass the first reading. We're under discussion, so is there another motion? If none, then motion is to pass. Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, I fully recognize and agree with Councilor Bartley that that's an important part of this this motion here about identifying, and I wish we had a better answer. We would have gotten the answer. It's not just that the meeting wasn't posted, but we had originally tabled this to allow the City Council to go into executive session, which, as I stated earlier, we did at least twice more recently. But each time, instead of talking about these items, we talked about a larger case that is pending against the city of Holyoke, as I think each of you know, and it took up the bulk, or if not the entire executive session's discussion itself. I'm torn because as much as I want to give Councilor Bartley and everybody an answer, I also know that these invoices and bills are legit and pending. We purposely underfund the special counsel budget and the litigation budget so that we do have discussions with the law department throughout the year in terms of what they are spending these items on. And that's why we look for, that's why we get these transfers, especially near the end of the fiscal year. I tried to find the item within the budget itself. We have not had a lot of land takings. We've not had a lot of easements. And I don't have the answer. I could speculate, but I have a feeling this is an account that isn't under, as I said, under the control of a department head, but it is an account that is part of the overall cherry sheet. But with that in mind, I'm amenable to whatever the full city council wants to do. We can get an answer, better answer, but at the same time, I would like to see these bills be paid.
Counselor Bartley.
So I agree with the finance chair, as I usually do. I think they should be paid, and I agree with his premise that we underfunded on purpose, but it's not just us, it's the mayor, who the mayor cut it first, okay? So there was that. That we want to get an answer. What my concern is not the bills. My concern is that how do we find $100,000 in an account? So that I'd rather just know where the money comes from. So consequently, I'm gonna motion that we just put it back in finance.
Well, you can table it.
Second.
If you want to put it, your so motion is to refer back to committee?
Refer back to finance.
Motion is refer back to committee. It was seconded. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No.
Ayes have it. Finance is over. Public Safety Committee. Item 14A. Command Public Safety was referred in order that the building commissioner, along with the Board of Health commissioner, come in front of the Public Safety Committee to discuss the annex. Signed off by both, or that's been complied with.
Make a motion, the order's been complied with?
Motion is received, and that's going to be complied with. Any discussion? Councilor Bresnahan.
Sure. We've got quite a few orders, and I'm going to try to get a couple of them together, but I'll be brief on as many as I can, and I'll defer to the makers of the orders on some of them. I had Ryan provide us all with a report from 2015 with respect to the conditions of the City Hall Annex, but I think the order may have been a little bit more attuned to on the weekend of January 5th, a window was left open in one of the buildings, or in one of the offices on a higher floor. A pipe broke, and water was, some of the pictures I saw were shocking. I mean, water was literally frozen, pouring out the doors. So with that happening over a weekend, there were some concerns. The building commissioner did come in, as well as a representative from the Board of Health. They spoke a little bit about the repairs that had been made, some new carpets installed, and the problem has thus far been resolved. We talked a little bit about the old police station and, you know, trying to get the sense of the health issues that may be floating around City Hall, the former police station, as well as the City Hall Annex. The City Hall Annex definitely needs some work. I certainly recommend that all of us take a brief look at the report from 2015, and I have spoken to Councilor Leahy about filing some orders with respect to that, to see if any work has been done. It's just obviously when you have water leaking into a building for a weekend, there have been some, from what I understand, law department files that have been damaged. And so we need to find out, you know, what, if anything significantly was damaged, what are any sort of health impacts, and as are the safeties of the City Hall Annex. So that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. I filed that order, and I was out of town, so I appreciate Councilor Bresnahan for running the meeting and that information out to everyone. So Councilor Bresnahan and I did talk about this report is from February of 2015. I think we should have a new updated report, something, you know, from at least 2019. The reason I filed this report, this order, is for the quality of life of the people who work in the building. Some of the people that work in the building now I've talked to, and some of the people that have now retired I've talked to. It's for no other reason. I just want to make sure that the quality of life of our employees are at 100%. I don't want anybody getting asthma or getting sick because of carpets or because of mold or that sort of thing. I think that we just need a good quality of a workplace environment. Thank you.
Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, also, I think it's very important that we don't let this rather historic and unique building, it needs a lot of work between roof leaks and we saw last year the hardwood floors buckling up because of it, the elevator's intermittent. It's time to start spending some money and doing some preventive maintenance, or this will go the same way as a lot of other buildings we've seen in Holyoke.
Anyone else? Motion is that the order has been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Mr. President, can we take number 22 out of order?
Motion to suspend the rules, take up 22 out of order.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? 22 from Counselor Sullivan.
Is he yelling in this order?
It almost sounds like it, Counselor Leahy. Order that. The Honorable City Council approve the recommendation from the Community Preservation Act Committee and award a grant in the amount of $100,000 to the MIFA, which is going to be used for 63 historic light fixtures at the Victory Theater. For discussion, Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, so I just, we have the people from the Victory here, and I didn't want to have them, if we're going to send this one to committee, to have them sit here for 13 other orders. We did handle the last CPA ones on the floor, so my first question would be, the will of the body to take this up now or send it to committee?
So just to be clear, the ones that we did receive were recommendations from the committee.
Yes.
For those, for paying for those, Boys and Girls Clubs and other things. Is this also a report from the committee?
This is also a report from the committee.
Okay. Councilor Bar Martinez.
With the maker of the order, if I can be added on to this order.
Adding Councilor Bar Martinez to the order.
Is it?
Any questions with regards to it? We can also suspend the rules. We do have the experts here to address it, but Councilor Bacon.
I was just going to offer a motion to suspend the rules to take it up if it has the endorsement of the committee.
It does, this one went through 3-2. The full committee wasn't there. The rest of the packages that we presented were unanimous. So that's the only difference in this one, really.
Councilor, if you're not done, go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, this one, it also comes with some, everybody should have a copy of it in front of them right now. It does come with some terms and conditions.
Can you please read that out to everyone?
Yep. I'll find the right page.
In the back.
Okay, so the funding conditions, the rest agrees to execute the proposed project in its entirety in correspondence with U.S. Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and to secure contractors who have demonstrated experience successfully completing projects in compliance with these standards. MIFA has represented to the CPC that restoration of the Victory Theater is not and cannot be a phased project. It thus has no contingency plans to allow for partial construction or completion as funding allows. Rather, 100% of the funding necessary to complete the project as presented must be raised and available for immediate disbursement before any construction can begin. As noted above, MIFA's plan calls for said construction to begin during the summer or early fall of 2019 and be completed by December 2020. So even though we're approving these funds, until they raise all of the funds, they still wouldn't be able to do this work. The disbursements of funds may occur until the project in its entirety has received all necessary permitting and approvals from all relevant municipal, state, and federal authorities. I believe that's supposed to say may not occur. I think we have someone from the CPA committee that can help with that.
So motion would be to suspend the rules to allow another member to speak on the matter, as well as members from MIFA if they want to offer up. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So you want me to finish the terms in
Yeah.
case we have other questions? All right. In the event these contingencies are not met by a date certain to be determined by the committee in consultation with the applicant and its engineering and design team, but in no event to be later than December 2020, this grant will terminate automatically, and the funds reserved by the Community Preservation Act Committee to fund it will return to the CPA unrestricted account without further encumbrance. Other conditions may apply as deemed necessary and as fully set forth within the final grant agreement with the city.
Okay.
My name is Kip Foley. I live at 90 Pleasant Street. I am a member of the CPC as appointed by the City Council. I'm here as an individual, not in an official capacity as a member of the CPC. I've not been designated as spokesperson on this matter. However, I am aware that in the last City Council meeting, there were many councilors expressed interest in having members here in case there were questions. So I'm here. I'm happy to answer your questions. I think it's important to understand, as Councilor Sullivan was saying, that this money really is, the disbursement of the money is in two forms. One, it's a reimbursement, so it isn't money that goes out and then they're allowed to spend it to repair sconces and we would pay. They're required to pay all their expenses and then submit invoices. That's how it is with all of the CPA funded or projects. The second thing I think it's important to understand is that similar to a lot of the projects, the CPA has recommended funding to the City Council. The City Council has approved funding for projects that have come before you to date. But again, none of the monies are handed to as grants for them to spend, and almost all of the projects have other financing contingencies associated with them before any money would be dispersed. So it's not that unique, this situation that we're looking at with the Victory. If they're able to raise 100% of their funding for the revitalization of the theater, and they proceed forward, and the sconces that the CPA committee voted to fund are repaired, and invoice for repairing those sconces would be delivered to the city, and a check would go from the city to whoever repairs the sconces. So I just think it's important to understand this is not a blank check that's being handed to anybody for them to use as they would like. I do think, speaking personally, that this is important funding. I think it's potentially a transformative economic development project, and it's important, I think, in this project with the type of money that's being raised that other funding sources see that the city has some skin in the game and a willingness to put some of their money where their mouth is. So,
thank you very much.
Questions?
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess for this project and for all the other ones that we had approved earlier as well, so do we get the receipts, then we reimburse. Do we also send somebody out to make sure that the Boys and Girls Club did X, Y, and Z, or if that park completed X, Y, and Z? Do we have a final report on that? Do we get a copy of that?
Councilor Sullivan?
It's a good question. I'm not sure on that. I know that as far as some of the other projects, it's up to the recipient to make sure that the work is done to their satisfaction. So I think the two important things with this are to understand, like with the other projects, the monies are actually going to be spent right away. This one here, what we're doing is we're encumbering $100,000 towards this project. So we're not at risk of spending the $100,000 doing these historic sconces, lights, and then not having the project go through and being stuck with $100,000 worth of beautiful lights.
Right.
So the money is tied up. It can't be used for something else for this period of time, pending them getting complete funding of the project. The other thing that is important about it is even though we're not actually spending the money at this time, by approving this, it does allow them to leverage the funds for other projects and other grant applications and stuff, because it shows the city having skin in the game.
So on that, you bring up two excellent points. One of them is the fact that, so say if they don't get the permits, now we've tied up $100,000 to, that could have gone to a different group. And the second point is, well, actually, I think that's the best point, is making sure that, you know, well, actually, go back to my first point. I like this group. I like Don. Don's a good friend of mine. However, the last time they were in here for a grant or whatnot, it was to leverage, we approved this grant for them to leverage other funding sources. So if I could, through the chair, just ask Mr. Sanders, the last time you were in here, you said that the grand opening was going to be 2020. Is that still correct?
To the microphone, please.
Don Sanders. Yes, that is correct. It's correct.
Okay. So I would also like to see, you know, I'll vote for this. I think it's, you know, I'm all for the arts, and I think we certainly need this in the city of Holyoke. But I would like to see a breakdown and maybe an audit of exactly all the monies that we've been given or that come through the city's hands to MIFA and also the Victory Theater. I'd be interested in seeing that. And I'd also like to see maybe a tour to see exactly hands-on what has been done.
Great, we'd love to do that. All of the facts and figures we have, I don't want, you know, I could read some of them to you right now, but we have them, and would love to do that. And as always, love to take people into the theater. It's a difficult project. I sat in this room in 2005 and said, we got to do this. It's worth doing. I stick by that. And we have raised to date $29 million. And it's not paper money, it's real money. It's money that comes to us when we complete this project. And I think the action that you're taking, which is to make it contingent on getting it done, boy, I like that. You know.
So let me ask, if I could, Don,
sure.
So $29 million you guys have raised, how far are the process and percentage-wise? Are you 90% done, 95?
We've raised 64% of the money needed.
No, percentage of construction done. Is it like almost ready to go?
The construction, again, it's this thing that it has to begin only when all of the money is there. It's not incremental. So, in other words, in terms of the actual hammers and nails, et cetera, that begins at a period when there's what's called a closing. The closing closes, and everybody gets over there and does the construction, and it'll take about 18 months.
Okay, well, so that kind of begs my next question. So it's April of 2019. You said it's going to open in 2020.
December 31st, 100th anniversary.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, two things. Number one, I do support, and I can remember when I went to one of the last movies at the Victory Theater in 1979. So, and I think it was $1 for popcorn and $1 for the ticket. So, but I've met with Kathy McKeon and talked about this, and it appears that we are actually finally 35 years after the beginning thought of doing this, at a point where we can really get something accomplished. And so I would support this, but I do think Councilor Leahy brings up an excellent point, and I think maybe we need to get a meeting where we get a clear understanding of how the money is dispersed, how do we determine that things are in fact being done, what we were told they were going to be done on a time level that they were supposed to be done. I mean, I think we need to get more involved, since obviously we're the ultimate final decider. We also should be able to have some kind of audit that we do to make sure that we're getting exactly what we said. But I would definitely support this, and I would encourage that, you know, whatever haste that can be put into the process, we certainly endorse it, and it's certainly a worthwhile project.
Councilor Anderson Burgos?
Through the chair, 65, you said 65% was already raised? 64%. Once you're at 100%, how long would it take for the actual reconstruction for the entire job?
We're being told by the 18 months.
18 months exactly?
Yeah, well, you know, construction, so we're figuring 18 months to 2 years.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilor Bartley?
I'll make a motion that we approve this with the aforesaid conditions listed by Councilor Sullivan. The only one I'm concerned about is the open-ended thing. I think Councilor Sullivan said December 2020.
Correct.
Is
Okay.
that part of it?
Yep.
That's the truth. Okay, so.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you.
The motion is to receive, adopt, we pass the first reading.
With the
to
conditions.
approve the $100,000 based on the conditions read by Councilor Sullivan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is to pass the second reading.
Motion to pass the second reading.
Second.
Motion is to pass the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the appropriation.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi, McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
Your vote, you approve the transfer or the appropriation? Back to 14B, you said you're gonna package some, or what'd you wanna do, Counselor?
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to speak to 14B, correct, Counselor?
Thank you very much for coming
Thanks,
down,
Kevin.
thank you.
Yeah, I can package some of these later on, but I just don't.
Okay.
If
No,
I
just
may,
making sure.
If the makers of the order want to speak to any orders that are out there, we can go into greater depth. Otherwise, the orders that have been listed have all been complied with, but I'm more than happy to go into greater detail with any particular orders.
Okay, so 14B, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order. Mayor provided an update to the City Council by its second meeting in February on the findings and recommendations of the Mayor's Task Force to combat panhandling. It further goes on that it's been complied with.
Motion that the order's been complied with, Mr. President.
Motion that it's been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Bresnahan.
Real briefly, it doesn't seem that there's been any significant meetings of the task force. The police chief was actually here. The Board of Health representative was here. There didn't seem to be any significant stakeholders. Doesn't seem to be any updates at all. The chief of police, the current chief of police, has not been contacted since the inception of his job.
Councilor Bartley.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to thank Council President for taking it, but I also want to thank Council Murphy for easy for me to say, pinch hitting that night, because
When you were a baseball coach, you can handle that.
I was a baseball coach. I was a baseball coach for many years, Mr. Murphy.
Softball.
I was a softball player for 18 years, but baseball coach for 5 years. Right, so I really appreciate Dan and Terry for taking us up. We had a good discussion with the chief of police. He's been installed since July last year. He's had no meetings with the mayor on this, none. Since this release was issued, if you didn't read the whole press release, but it's right there, and you read it once before, Mr. President, so we don't have to read it again. No meetings. So we're talking about a public health, we're talking about a public perception crisis. We had a headline, and it's a phantom committee, Mr. President. This is the chief of police was here. So the mayor didn't bother, I know he's busy, and I said it that night, he can't possibly attend every meeting. But even the acting member of the committee said he can at least send a communication. Nothing. There's nothing to communicate, Mr. President. So I just want to say this to the members of the council and those who are listening. You have a press release, that's great. You put together a committee, that's great. But the committee's got to ultimately meet and do something. I just went by a panhandler at the corner of Cabin and High. He had a shopping cart, he had 2 mattresses, he had pillows, and he was throwing stuff all on the ground. I mean, city councilors, they care about this stuff. We file order after order, and people get mad at us for putting signs up. Okay, so we have a committee. Well, do something about it. Don't just sit here, do something about it. You know, you're so concerned. You know, when we file orders about signage, we get the blowback. Well, then do something. Tell the mayor to start having a meeting. At least talk to the chief of police that you installed in July. Call him once on it anyhow. The chief said point blank, nothing. Councilor Murphy, Councilor Breslin, and I were here. He said no meetings, nothing. That's a quote. That's disgusting, Mr. President. We have panhandlers all over Ward 3, all over the whole city. It is a public health crisis. The one good point coming at us, I will say this, is that BHN and the police department are out there on the streets, Behavioral Health Network, sorry, Mr. President, Behavioral Health Network. They're out there on the streets doing the best they can. And they're to be commended and thanked. But when we have a chief executive saying we had a committee, and in 2 years the committee hasn't met, that's why I filed the order, because I knew it was fake. So something should be done about this. Hopefully this will inspire the mayor to pull the committee together, to call the police chief, and to act. And I think he will find a very supportive city council. We said it that night. We don't want to be punitive. That's not the point of any of this. We want to help our fellow Holyoakers and the residents that come to the city. We want to help them. We said it before, Mr. President. We're a welcoming community with many services. We want to make them available. Well, have the committee reach out to the people who are on the panhandlers, et cetera, get them the help they need. So start acting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Lisi.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. You know, I find it difficult to hear that this task force is being labeled fake because there was an attempt to bring a group of people together to address issues of panhandling in the city. And what we found once we brought people that were stakeholders was that really the task force that was assembled would be better able at dealing with homelessness as an issue as opposed to panhandling. So, you know, I think that in 2017, August, it was right before, you know, a campaign season, and given that there wasn't a clear path forward for addressing the panhandling issues, and that homelessness seemed to be the issue that floated to the top of that meeting, I think that it wasn't an exact fit given the stakeholders that were present at the table that day. I do think that there is a need to reconvene. I was actually at an event with folks from Providence Ministries on Friday night, and a lot of people felt that there was new information to bring to the table, and so there is a lot of interest. I have been in touch with the DPW director about this issue because I know that I'm calling the DPW director all the time about clearing trash where you know, some panhandlers are setting up camp. And that's just not you know, we don't want those sort of like public health nuisances accumulating in any part of the area. So the DPW director, he's interested in reconvening this group. He also said that he'd like to, so for example, they had a contract with some group to go around and clear the debris with the police department, DPW, and then some contracted group to clear the trash and debris away, because there was a fear, the DPW workers had a fear that there might be exposure to drugs, and they're not trained to handle those sorts of substances and contaminants, and so they wouldn't be able to do it themselves. So the DPW director is interested in whether or not, you know, the contract that his guys have allows for training. So there are a lot of conversations happening. It really is. It's a difficult issue to try to get a handle on because panhandling and homelessness are not the same thing. Not everybody who's panhandling is homeless. Addiction and drug abuse is another issue that overlaps and dovetails in some way, but we shouldn't assume that everybody that's out panhandling is, addicted. And I know that the police have done a lot to reach out to individuals to see if they want help getting into rehab programs or at least connected to services. And so I think everybody is trying to figure out how to tackle the issue of panhandling, which, it's just a really difficult issue to get to because people are doing it for a lot of different reasons. And I don't know if we're equipped at the moment to deal with it. So I think bringing people together again and trying to figure out like what's the state of the resources and best practices for handling these things. I think it is an appropriate time to bring people back together, and there is interest.
Councilor Sullivan.
Thank you. I've never heard of a task force that meets just once. All right, 18 months after this task force was formed, there's still no path forward. All right. In November of 2018, a homeless person, addicted person, however you want to classify it, panhandler, froze to death right on Cabot Street under the sign by the Boys Club. All right. Just today, on my way down here, there's a person sitting on the ground on his butt in front of the entrance to Stop and Shop up on Lincoln Street. All right? All the time. All right? If DPW is afraid of what's out there in some of these piles, what about the kids, that are playing in the streets of the neighborhoods and stuff like that? We've really got to get serious with this. If this task force is going to get going again and get moving, I'd suggest let's leave this not complied with. Let's send it back to committee and wait to hear from them and see what we're going to take for steps going forward.
Seconded. Councilor Murphy.
Yeah, just a couple, and I agree with quite a few different things here. Number one, I do think in this particular case, for sure, the mayor dropped the ball, and it is a complicated process. I agree with Councilor Lisi. It's a complicated process, but you don't deal with it in one meeting and think it's complicated and then not have any other meetings or follow-up. And I do know, and I want to make sure I emphasize this because our Veteran Service Administrator, Jesus Pereira, has done a great job. He is, I saw a few that had veteran signs, and I did ask if they were, and I asked for their names, and then I called him, and he actually went to try to help them. And I know he's still trying to get some of them into housing, so I want to commend him. He left wherever he was, and he ended up coming in like 10 or 15 minutes to meet with those people on the street. So there are, it is not an inhuman thing to try to help people. It's a quality that we would love to have. And we do need to have meetings, and whether it's the mayor that creates a task force or we decide that, you know what, if the executive is not going to take it, then we take on the role ourselves and we put people together and try to figure out what can we do both to encourage people by giving them the proper incentives to get off the street if possible, and also to recognize that in some cases it's just people that are really taking advantage of other people, because they're not all people that are homeless, they're not all people that are having other issues. So, if it has to be a task force that's by the city council, then let's put something together. But I would encourage the mayor to put people together and maybe include several city councilors and include other people, and how have other communities dealt with it. I know Portland, Maine and Albuquerque, New Mexico have had programs that have helped to find jobs and actually have gotten, I wouldn't say a tremendous percentage. I think Portland, Maine was 20% of what they thought were homeless panhandlers off the street and into jobs. And I think Albuquerque has been one of the better ones at 30-something%. Obviously, it's not 100%, but if there are those kind of things that we can do that can improve the quality of life for those people and also include the quality of life for people trying to go to Stop and Shop or wherever else they're trying to go, we need to do that. But again, I challenge the mayor to put the task force together and get them moving and start reporting what's happening, not just having a meeting and never telling us what's going on. It's time that we really address the issue and try to resolve it as best we can. And we're never going to get 100%, but let's get better than what we've got.
Councilor Bresnahan.
I agree with many sentiments tonight, and I think that the problem is that, you know, we're not going to have people moving into Holyoke if every entrance into the city of Holyoke has a trash barrel and someone begging for change. I mean, I work in Springfield. I don't see it at all out there. I know it exists in other communities, but when you drive around other communities, and I work in sections of Springfield that, you know, you probably wouldn't want to go to, you don't see it. I drive through all of Springfield. You don't see people begging for change on main entrances in and out of Springfield. Why is it that they're in Holyoke? And I can tell you that the folks that are begging for change in Holyoke aren't from Holyoke. Very few of them, if any of them, are actually from Holyoke. I will echo your thoughts and sentiments about our veterans officer. He's doing a great job out there. He's offering them help, saying, "Hey, you're a veteran. I can get you a bed. I can work with you." But you know, it's not that they enjoy being out on the streets. The catch is that you have to be clean and sober to get a bed. So if you're not clean and sober, you can't get a bed, whether it's through the Veterans Administration, whether it's through Kate's Kitchen, whether it's through the Broderick House, whether it's through Providence Hospital. You have to be clean and sober to get a bed. Whether you go to the shelters in Westfield or any community, you can't go in there using. You can't go in there abusing. You have to be clean and sober, and that's the key problem. But we see it continually in Holyoke, off of 391, off of 91. So who's gonna, you know, people that are coming in for the parade or coming into Holyoke Sporting Goods to get cleats for their kids from Chicopee, do you think they're gonna be like, oh, wait a second, you know, there actually might be building a couple new schools. Let's move to Holyoke because that's going to scare everybody, all the panhandlers away. It's not going to happen. It's not a reality. We have to clean up the streets of Holyoke. We have to help them if they want help. And if they don't, then we have to look at, you know, how can we fix this? The ACLU argument, I get it. I appreciate it. But when you see people standing on the middle of an island with traffic going 35, 45 miles an hour, where signs are honoring their dead children, and they're stomping all over the grounds begging for change. Doesn't make sense. You see them, I drive up to, they're nodding off. They're falling asleep because they're high. And so, it's not a safety issue. It's a freedom of speech issue. I strongly disagree with that point, and we need to start looking at that, how they should not be allowed to be hanging out on islands begging for change. That's how we can fix problem one. Problem two, we can't have them littering the corners. They got to be shushed along. Other communities, that's what the cops are doing. Move along, move along. They may not say that publicly or not, but you don't see it anywhere else. You don't.
Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make a couple comments. I'll be brief. But we had done a lot of work in this in the Ordinance Committee up through 2017, and these things became controversial. Jen Schottenhoff took the brunt of it, when what we were trying to do was improve the public safety for the people who also want to travel on the streets, for the elders and kids and everybody else that want to go into Stop and Shop and do business and have commerce in our city. At the time that we were taking a number of approaches relative to the panhandlers, it became very controversial, and a lot of legal issues were raised relative to the various recommendations that were coming out of the City Council. That was when this task force was created. It was on face created to continue to work in a different venue and take a different approach than the City Council had been taking. Right now, I think we have 5 or 6 different orders relative to this issue in the Ordinance Committee, and it's my intention to begin to address it again, since it's been over 1.5 years since anything has been done. So I think it's time for us to pick up the baton again, and hopefully between Ordinance Committee, this body, and the Mayor's Task Force, perhaps we can actually do something this time. Thank you.
So the motion was to send it back to committee. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Back to committee for 14B.
Mr. President, if I could suspend the rules and take up 14C through 14N. And again, I have, anyone that wants to take one of those orders out, the maker of the order, I'd be glad to go into greater detail, but they've all been complied with.
Okay, so motion to suspend the rules, take up 14C to 14N as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? To abbreviated readings, 14C, the Committee on Public Safety was referred in order. Hoyoke has to get serious about cleaning up its image. Recommend to the mayor that the city sweepers clean every street at least once annually. Copy to DPW, Suez, and so on. D, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that Hoyoke Police Department have an officer stationed at Jim's Mobile on Northampton Street during the hours of pickup and drop off for students, which was the bus driver issue. 14E, the Committee on Public Safety to was referred in order HPD set up traffic enforcement on the following streets to monitor speeding. F, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that HPD set up traffic enforcement on these streets for enforcement. G, Committee on Public Safety was referred in order that the City Council requests a speed study for Hillside Ave. Committee on Public Safety, 14H, referred in order that a study be done on the corner of Portland and Mackenzie for improvements of safety. Many vehicles are driving through the stop sign. 14I, the Committee on Public Safety, constituents residing at 159 Nonotuck Street have been dealing with flooding issues for many years. 14J, Public Safety was referred in order that sidewalks on even side of Beacon Street be repaired. 14K, that temporary speed humps be placed on Woods Ave. 14L, Public Safety was referred in order to change lights to 5-minute delay at the intersection of Sunset and 202, eliminating the left-hand turn. 14M, order that flexible poles be installed in the road to prevent cars from crossing the double lanes, beginning at 202 to Homestead Ave. 14N is that our DPW superintendent recommend sidewalk construction close to Sunset Ave, Ashley Reservoir at 202. The estimated cost is $25,000. All have been complied with. Under discussion, Councilor Bresnahan.
Real brief, the street sweepers, they do most streets, all streets once a year, twice on some of the other streets. Jim's Mobile has been a success. They're not doing it as frequently as they are, but they are still doing it. We all saw some of the Facebook posts by the owners of Jim's Mobile, and we want to thank the public for reaching out to us as counselors. The McIntosh order, there was a larger stop sign put up, and they're thinking it's working. A speed study conducted on the hillside, it was done 2 years ago, but now that we've dropped the speed rate on streets like that to 25, they are going to set up another box, and he suggests that we reach out to them. It should take 3 weeks to have that back out on the streets. Portland Mackenzie, let me get my, you got me now, I gotta get that one back up. Larger stop sign. That's what they're going to. We can't raise the stop signs, but we can make the stop signs bigger. The 156 Nonotuck Street, they did back in August 2018, street work was done. There was no snow. They're gonna observe it. If they're hoping that they fix it, if it hasn't been fixed, they want it to be brought back to their attention. But they, worst case scenario, they will install a new basin there if that's what's needed. The order on sidewalks on Beacon Avenue, it's eligible for CBGD money. It's been put on the list for that money. Whether or not it gets there, it's certainly hopeful. The temporary speed humps will be done. Again, it sounds like within the next 3 weeks, speed humps, speed recorder will, first they put a speed recorder in. If they notice the speeds are going too fast, they'll put the speed humps in, and they'll go from there. Item with Sunset, with respect to Sunset and what's the other street, Linda?
Ashley.
Ashley, thank you. They're gonna make them dead-end streets. He's put in the money, it's a $25,000 cost, they're gonna block the streets off that lead on to 202.
And he said they have, through
it's all right, Councilman, yeah.
through the chair. Did he indicate that they had the money? Because the reason that I filed the order was because he had indicated that they didn't have the money. So I was looking for a temporary.
He's asked that the money be put in for next year's budget. He does not have the money, according to Mike, that night.
Okay. So did he speak to the idea of a temporary solution pending? Because I could see this going the way of other things into Never Never Land.
He does not, well, this is something different, but those little, the plastic things that you put in the street.
Yeah.
No, it's not, he doesn't, they're not good. He goes, they're not cost effective. Dump trucks have a real heck of a time with them. They're just not a good idea. He's asking for $25,000 through this year's budget for 2020, or it would be fiscal year 2021, actually.
Okay.
Or, fiscal year. He's asking for the money to block off Sunset and block
Okay,
off
so,
Ashley.
okay, so again, through the chair, so he preferred to try to get the money than to come up with a stopgap measure.
He said that the feedback he got from what has been done thus far was been, that people finally, since they blocked off the entrance to Ashley, people felt like they had a neighborhood again. There wasn't
Right.
as much cutting through and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
So he just said that he wants to just block them off and make those streets a dead end.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for taking it up in my absence. I appreciate it.
Anyone else with regards to any of the orders?
That's how public safety rolls, folks. DGNR is the same way.
Motion is that they've been complied with. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There was no public service, no DGR, no charter and rules. That's tomorrow at 6:30 for a joint committee. Motions, orders, and resolutions. 19 from Councilor Murphy, Bresnahan, and Tallman. Or at the City of Holyoke amends Section 7.10.4 marijuana facilities permitting districts to reduce the distance requirement from any pre-existing public or private school providing education at pre-kindergarten. All marijuana facility functions continue at a 500-foot buffer. Ordinance?
Make ordinance, go to ordinance committee.
And if I may be added to that?
I would like to be added.
Adding Councilor Lisi and Councilor LeBar Martinez?
Yes, thank you.
And if I could just comment on that?
Yes, Councilor Murphy.
So just, and I've gone through this, I'm a rookie in the marijuana legislation field here, but a couple of things I did meet with, I've had 2 meetings so far, and I have another meeting coming up. There are 2 opportunities in South Holyoke that are that would be ineligible to do cultivation if the 500 feet standard was there, but with the 200 feet standard, both of those look like they would have an excellent chance of being able to become operational. The one I met with today on Main Street, they're both on Main Street, would be starting with potentially hiring a contractor and expecting to hire 25 to 30 people to get the facility ready to be cultivation, to be a cultivation facility. And then after that, their expectation was that about this time next year, there could be anywhere from 50 to 70 Holyoke residents getting decent pay and full health care benefits, and it would be a cultivation facility. This particular company started, believe it or not, in Colorado, and have worked their way east. They also have operations in Worcester. They've been licensed in a variety of areas. The other one I haven't met with yet, but it's a similar circumstance. We're talking cultivation, and I am put in the order that it would be just cultivation and not any other marijuana operation, so that it seemed, I know we did the cultivation down on Middle Street, whatever that was.
Middle Water Street.
Middle Water Street. And I know the security in terms of the cultivation and then getting it out to various things was pretty strict. So I'm pretty confident that the same kind of thing we can do with this. So I really encourage that the ordinance committee take it up. And again, it's an opportunity for jobs for Hoyokers. I did emphasize to those people that, my goal is that you hire Holyoke people, and they were pretty well committed. They are just outside of Worcester, and I cannot remember where they had their operation, but they basically hired people from that town totally.
On the motion.
Counselor Bartley.
My hope is that we'll also talk to the local principals, perhaps a school committee, as opposed to just the proponents of the whole thing. That's the point of the, by the way, it's a state law. It gives the municipality some flexibility, but let's hope that we'll hear from local educators and those will be impacted by this as well. Thank you.
All right, so to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 20 from Counselor Murphy, order that the ordinance committee meet with the Director of Planning and Development and the appropriate parties to discuss current zoning in South Holyoke. So the ordinance.
Yes.
Counselor Lisi?
I believe I filed something similar to this about a year ago, so I'd like to be added to this.
Adding Counselor Lisi. So to ordinance. Counselor Bacon, sorry.
I just want to make a comment on this. We had an order similar to this that had been filed by Nelson Roman. And the problem that we had with it in committee was that it wasn't asking for anything specific to be done. It was so broad that the committee really couldn't do anything with it. And I had spoken with the counselor at that time to have him try to come back with some more specificity, because it's very hard in that context to actually do anything. But, you know what I mean? But we can take it up, but it will just end up having to come back with a specific request for something to actually be changed. That's all.
Counselor Murphy.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I looked at it, but I've gone through some of it, and there are many places where right now, what we have, we've got buildings that have been demolished, we've got buildings that are burnt down, and we're unable to do anything because of the current zoning. And there's a few other cases back in my earlier time on council where zoning took place, where the goal was to make it South Holyoke an industrial area, and some of that needs to be adjusted as well. So there are things, I just want us to be aware of the problem before we come up and try to recommend some solutions. But I think, and I've had conversations, but I need to get more, and I think the ordinance committee will provide me with some more expertise in terms of what we can do and what we can't do. And that's my goal, so that we meet and we talk about, right now, this is where we are, and because of this, we can't do this. But if we did this, we can do it. And I also want to make sure we don't do things that are going to cause harm for those that are already in business or have a facility there. So,
all right, to ordinance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 21 from Counselor Murphy. Or that Development and Government Relations DG&R Committee meet to discuss the future status of the former Springdale Turn Hall.
make a motion to go to
Motion to
DGR
DGNR.
committee. Yep.
Counselor Bartley?
Well, we've already taken it up, we've disposed of the matter already, and it's now on surplus property, it's being marketed, so I would say just, all these questions you should put to Mr. Marrero, we've already taken up in committee and disposed of it.
Counselor Murphy?
I will meet with Mr. Marrero.
Yeah,
Counselor Lisi?
Terry, we did all this, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all good, so we.
Yeah, the only thing I had heard was that they had gone and looked at the building, but that was that's the last I heard, so.
No,
Declared.
yeah, it's all been voted on, so I would say, I mean, we'll send it to committee, but we've done it, so.
Counselor Sullivan? So you want to say receive
Just
and refer to?
Send it to committee, and send a copy to Ms. Marrero.
Second.
Anyone else? All right, to DG&R with a copy. All those in
OPED.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 22 is done. 23 from Counselor Bacon, order that the DPW engineer evaluate the Primrose Street area homes from number 6 to 14 to see if there is any way to reduce the water flow behind the homes.
Receive, adopt, and refer to DPW.
Motion is receive, adopt, refer to DPW
And could we have a copy go to public safety?
with a copy to public safety.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. President, can we suspend and take 24, 25 as a package, send them both to ordinance, please?
Motion is suspend rules, take up 24 and 25 as a package. All those in favor? All opposed? 24 and is from Counselor Bartley and 25 is from Counselor Bartley. 24, order that Section 86-322, Schedule I-A-C3 be amended to amend the parking fees for special events in the city. 25, a do not block the box be inserted on Northampton Street at the top of Carlton Street and in the southbound lane of Route 5, refer to ordinance. So both to ordinance?
Yes, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 26 from Councilor Bartling, LeBron Martinez. Please remove the handicap sign per the following residents' request, 7 Center Street.
Mr.
in front of
President, I'd like
14.
to make a motion, give this leave to withdraw.
Second.
Motion is to,
He,
Councilor Martinez?
I just learned about this order today, that it was supposedly,
It's like the
which
person
on the
passed away.
conversation I had received from an email requesting that this was to be removed, but it says here 7, and I had requested for number 14, Center Street.
So there's a handicap space for 7 Center Street, which is placed in front of 14 Center. The person with the handicap space has passed away.
That's what the email said to me, that I received.
Mr. President, I spoke with the counselor before this.
Yeah, but my
and-
question
hold on,
was, can
hold
I
on,
just finish
hold on.
my thought
Sure.
here? So
Counselor.
I'm trying to ask, is there any way that we can table this so I can figure and go down and figure this out before we just?
Well, we can send it to ordinance, or I think it was leave to withdraw, right?
Mr. President?
Yeah,
It-
Councilor Bartley.
It's my order. I was given erroneous information. I corrected the information. The constituent is still with us. So very much alive. I've been confirmed. The person who advocated for this admitted to me in an email, yes, I made a mistake. And I said, next time you do that, send me a certificate of death and I'll file the order. So it has been confirmed that this constituent at this address is still among the living. Therefore, I'd like to give it, and I advised the Ward 1 councilor that before the meeting, that were the facts at hand. Those are the facts at hand. So
Sorry,
I'd like
you
to give it leave
informed
to
me,
withdraw.
but I didn't know if I could have tabled it because I didn't know he received an email. If I would have been CC'd on it, I probably would have confirmed that it's okay to do so.
Okay.
But I had filed an order prior to what he's filing here again. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So if it's
So
cost
leave
that
to
he does
withdraw.
have verification of the gentleman that
I do.
emailed me too, I take that.
All right, so motion is to give leave to withdraw because the person still is
Among
with
the
us.
living.
Thank God.
All those in
Amen.
favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 27 from Councilor Bartley, that the DPW replace the sidewalks on the odd side of Clark Street.
Receive, adopt, refer to DPW.
Motion is receive,
Second.
adopt, refer to DPW. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 28, the vendor that is using the space in City Hall formerly used as Weights and Measures, cease and desist operations. The mayor and the law department submit a formal request to the city council for use of the space, referred to the mayor to DGR. So motion is received, referred to DGNR with a copy to mayor and legal.
Second.
That's what you're asking?
That's a great motion.
I was just reading your thing.
I'm just under discussion.
I kind of switched it on you,
Oh,
but
that was perfect, Mr. President. That's why you're the president.
Councilor Bartley.
Once again, how many times are we going to say this? This is a public building. It is being leased out to a major international corporation whose name will go nameless, but if I said it, it would be called Sodexo. And that is an international conglomerate. I don't know under what terms and conditions are in the former Weights and Measures. But as we know, we've said repeatedly now, I think so, even the new councilors here know this, whether it's a license, whether it's a lease, whether it's a conveyance, it requires, law requires city council prior approval. I don't know why the mayor doesn't get this, because he just can. I don't know about the cease and desist, Mr. President. I don't know what kind of authority we have to do that. But the law department knows this to be true because we overturned a law department opinion that licenses don't need our approval. So we turned it around and we made it an ordinance. So the law department knows it's true. You cannot let out any public space to a third party without prior authorization of the city council. Consequently, I think the law department needs to advise the mayor, advise the vendor, this operation shut down tomorrow, henceforth, until the city council gets some kind of a petition to lease the space.
So the motion was to send a DGNR with a copy to the mayor and legal.
No, I don't want to send it to DGR. I want to send it right to, or did I say that?
Well, that's what I said, and you said it was great.
Actually, it is great. I'm sorry, you are great. Yeah, you are right. You're right. Just a copy to DGR. I'm sorry, Mr. President. My apologies. You were right.
Thanks. So there's two things that I wanted to raise in relation to this. So first of all, so under the assumption that the city council is supposed to be approving any use of the city building, any leases of the space, how is the city able to rent out or lease out the third floor space for events and activities? Because I do see that happening all the time. So I would just be interested in understanding whether that type of activity falls under the ordinances that Councilor Bartley is referring to, or if there's something else at play there. And then additionally, while I don't mind the idea of like a coffee shop in City Hall, I think that it would be subject to procurement law. So, you can't just hand out a contract to somebody if we're going to be, creating a space like that in City Hall.
Councilor McGivern.
Just to answer the question from Councilor Lisi, the charter in the former position, which we knew as the city messenger, which we eliminated and gave most of the power back to the mayor in terms of this building, allows for the temporary lease or temporary use of public buildings under, temporary being the key word here. And that's always been the way. Our city messenger, who we appointed, used to be the person that had to agree to something taking place within City Hall. I believe that the vendor downstairs, or the proposed vendor downstairs, is connected with the school department. And I'm not sure of the details, but I was briefed about a year ago that they were looking into a food service to provide for the people who both work on Suffolk Street, and to open up to other people who work within the city, to allow them to take advantage of a food service vendor, which is not uncommon in some larger departments. But I think Councilor Bartley is correct. If the space is being leased, it does require our approval.
So we'll send it to legal. And Joe, Councilor McGivern, you are correct. This came to us when the no-name company wanted to, in the school department, Anthony Soto, not former Councilor Soto, but Anthony Soto came in and said they were expanding the number of years to their contract, which required our approval. Within that expansion for the no-name company, it was mentioned by him that they were looking to put a food services in City Hall. He absolutely said that. We can go to the tape. I remember it as clear as day, and I said, where's it going to go? At the time, they weren't 100% sure, but he did reference the current location. So that came from Anthony Soto substituting for Dr. Reich at the time in order to expand that contract. I do believe for a 5-year contract instead of 3. But you are correct on the leasing part. Councilor Bartley.
Yes, and as my brother knows, an oral contract for real property is invalid. So it's got to be, and that's, so Mr. Soto may, and I believe him, so we'll just say he made an oral representation. Well, for real property, the law does not allow for oral representations for contracts, licenses, or leases, or deeds. They don't exist. Has to be in written form. So whether or not Mr. Soto said that, I will accept that as true, it's irrelevant, because we don't have a written form. Just to answer Councilor Lisi's question mark, she's right, or the premise is right, that if there's a lease being, I wasn't aware that they're leasing upstairs, but if they are leasing upstairs, yes, then those need to city council, the city council authorization. And furthermore, if it's a one-off deal to a major international corporation by the name of Sodexo, I I would assume they would have gone through procurement laws. I would assume they would have, that they would have bid it.
Assume nothing.
Right.
So-
But I would also assume that after how many times we've gone through this, for whatever building, whether it's geriatric or Lynch or wherever, that at some point they're gonna get the fact that they have to ask city council first, or the fire departments. That was the most recent one. Where we had, we don't have to go over that. We went 50
DGNR,
times.
copy to mayor and legal. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 30 from Councilor Bartley. Now that it is the opinion of the city leadership to go to the middle school system, the mayor and the city council consider taking the former Lynch School referred to DGNR.
Can we go back to 20, well, we skipped 29, Mr. President.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize, Counselor. 29 from Counselor Bartley. Order that the mayor forward any contracts between the City of Holyoke and the consultant that were initiated in February 2019. The contracts provided should include any agreement between the City of Holyoke and the former city employees referred to finance.
And a copy to the mayor.
Motion is received, refer to finance, copy to the mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Now to 30, which was the opinion with regards to former Lynch School, referred to DGNR, and a copy to charter and rules.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 31, DPW affix a do not block driveway sign at HG&E pole number 1 on Russell Terrace per request of the owner at 523 South Street, referred to DPW.
Yeah, receive, adopt, and refer.
So receive, adopt, refer to DPW.
And copy to HG&E.
And a copy HG&E. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 32 from Councilor Bartley and Sullivan, that the Public Service Committee conduct interviews for the Reservoir Committee.
Refer to the Public Service Committee and a copy
Second.
to the Personnel Director.
Motion is referred to Public Service and a copy to Personnel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Councilor 33 from Councilor Bresahen, order that the tax collector reports to City Council and find out exactly or to their best estimate what the city will be getting in tax revenue from the marijuana industry here in the city.
So even refer to the finance department, a copy of the tax.
Motion is received, refer to finance,
And
copy
add it
to
the maker.
collector, adding Councilor Vacan. Councilor Lisi?
Yeah, I do want to suggest that this needs to be copied to the assessor, because I think that the assessor is going to make the assessment on the valuation, and that would determine how much we're going to be able to
And a
collect.
copy to the assessor.
Dan, is that okay with you?
Oh, of course, yeah.
And can I add my name to that order?
Adding Councilor Lisi. All those in favor? All opposed? 34 from Council President, or that the DPW tax collector treasurer report to the city receiving any tipping fees from the trash transfer station on Main Street. What, if any, has been collected so far, and where is it going?
So even refer to the finance department, a copy to the tax collector and treasurer and the DPW.
Motion is to receive, refer to finance, copy to DPW tax collector treasurer. All those in favor?
Aye.
35 from Councilor Lisi, that HPD and Holyoke Fire Department come to discuss any marijuana-related incidents in the past 6 months. What if they see a need for any additional regulations to avoid similar problems in the future?
So if I could just speak briefly to this. I think, we have legalized cannabis in Massachusetts, and I think that it'd be great to get an inventory from the police department and the fire department to understand, are problems arising? Are they getting calls on things? I think there may have been a rash of small fires in the city due to people growing at home beyond the allowable 6 plants and things like that. So it would just be great to get an inventory at this point, now that we are living in a time of legal cannabis, to understand what's going on, and if we can get recommendations from them for how to avoid problems that are coming up.
So to public safety with a copy to HPD and Holyoke Fire Department?
Yes.
All those in favor? All those opposed? 36 from Councilor Lisi, that the City Council consider signing a letter of support for Veteran Services Department grant application. I do believe did we all get a copy of the letter or no?
It was unclear to me whether that letter was circulated along with the agenda.
I did reach out to Jesus Pereira, asking him, was he asking me to sign it? He said, no, there was a letter coming, so, and I saw it on here, so.
So I wrote that letter for myself, and I thought that it would be something that the full council would like to change onto, and we could change all the I's to we's, but I don't know if.
I would agree to that motion.
You've seen it? You saw the full letter?
Yeah, it's, right here. I've got the.
It is quickly.
Yeah, I mean, we could put it on city letterhead instead of my own little address thing, yeah.
As the Hoyoke City Council at large, or the City Council, I am writing to express my support for the application of the Hoyoke Veteran Services Department for CFDA number 62.024 VA Homeless Grant Per Diem Program, and it goes on to explain it. Of which Jesus Pereira said he signed off on this letter in the sense of approval of it. If everyone wants a chance to read it, that's all yours. It's just he's looking for us to give support while he applies for a grant, which then hopefully the grant will be used for veterans. Councilor Bacon.
My only question about it was, is it a position that would just go with the life of the grant? So that
it just goes with this grant. It's specific in the sense of number 62.024, so it's to that grant.
But you're saying to the creation of the position?
Right.
Yeah, it would just be funded by that grant.
Right. I just want to make sure we're not creating
up.
a continual liability if we support it. That's all.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, I just spoke to Councilor Lisi earlier tonight. It was a really well-written letter, and me being a veteran, I think any help that we can get, and I'd be happy to add on my name onto that letter. Anything that the City Council can do to help out the veterans in our community, I think is really important.
How about the motion be receive, adopt, send to our to Ryan, have him put it into our form, and we'll sign off as a group and send it. Councilor Lisi?
Yeah, and just because folks at home may not have the letter accessible, our Veteran Service Director, Jesus Pereira, is applying for a grant that would create a position to provide case management services to veterans that are in transition and coming into residential housing. They currently don't have case management services that they're allowed to receive and benefit from. But if they were homeless and if they were actually a permanent resident of so many months or years, then they would get those services. So this is to fill the gap that exists currently and provide case management services that are to veterans that are in transition.
So motion is to receive, adopt, amend to put on our letterhead, and that we all sign off on it. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 37 from me. Order that the DPW remove and replace the sidewalks both sides of Northampton Street from Vadnais to Mountain View Road. They're actually not sidewalks, to be honest with you. There's nothing there. Sides are missing, and I got complaints during the winter when they're using the snow blower because it's all broken up, even the sides. They're firing out into the street chunks of sidewalk. So if you walk past certain areas, the sidewalk where you walk is missing. It's just like dirt. It's a safety hazard. If you trip and fall, we're liable. So forget about the $100,000 we got to pay for the outstanding bills. You start paying more when people get hurt on this. So I'd say motion is to receive, adopt, and send to DPW.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
President, make a motion to suspend the rules to take up item 38 and 39 together as a package.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules, take up 38 and 39 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? 38 is, order that there hereby appropriated $6,268.91 from firefighters to injured on duty. Standard as we now know it to be. It's 1, 2, 3 members there. 39 is the same, but it's $7,956.66, and this is for the police department for injured on duty, of which there are 1, 2, 3, 4. So as we all know, as a reminder to those who are watching at home, it's just taking from their line item to pay those injured on duty.
Your motion to pass the first reading.
Motion is receive, adopt, pass
Second.
first reading. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
I think you pointed it out, Mr. President, it's more of an accounting than an actual transfer. No salaries are changed. These are just our public safety employees. Could be for a brief period of time or for a more lengthy period of time, are placed on injured duty, and to show that they're being paid their salary. However, the work is not, because they're injured, the work is not getting done. We just look at this for an accounting purposes.
Motion is passed the first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Motion to pass the second reading.
Motion is passed the second reading. Clerk will call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting for the transfers.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Anderson Burgos,
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
For your vote, you approve the transfers.
President, make a motion to suspend the rules to take up items 40, 41, 42, and to refer them to the Committee on Finance.
Motion to suspend rules, take up items 41 and 42 and refer.
And 43.
Take them as and 43. Take them
I'm
as a-
sorry, no, just 42, 42.
41 and 42 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 41 is, actually 40 is 2,900 from E911 dispatch to pay part-time dispatch. 41 is a demolition grant. And 42 is 13,000 from head administrative clerk to professional services. All to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. President, do we have a dollar amount on the grant?
I believe it's 25,000, but don't quote me.
I'm not quoting Councilor McGivern, but it's 25,000.
Thank you.
So now we're at 43.
Mr. President, if I can make a motion to suspend the rules to take 43 and 44 together as a package.
Second.
Motion is take up 43 and 44 as a package. All those in favor? All those opposed?
The chair would ask a motion to pass, to adopt item 43, but a motion to pass the first reading on 44.
All right,
Mr. President, I don't know if you wish to,
So this is $250 authorized from Audit Board, Health Board of Registrars to pay Board of Health $6,100, be authorized to pay commissioners for the Board of Registrars, so I'll have to abstain from this. Let's read it and then step down. 44 is $6,100 from pay head administrative clerk to the board members of the health and board of registrars based on the numbers there. So for me, I'll have a conflict and I cannot, I'll abstain from this, but I can turn it over to
I'm sure
Councilor
Councilor
McGivern.
Tomlin would be happy to take over, so I could do my report.
Follow the rules.
Don't blow it, Pete, there's a big chance.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
President
McGivern.
and Mr. President. Very quickly, this is money that is owed to different individuals, and that's the only reason, because it's actually for a prior year, the only reason I'm asking that it be looked at this evening. If there are questions cannot be answered, and if anybody needs time to think about it, or if we need time to look at it differently, then certainly please stop me and we can refer it to the Committee on Finance. Our auditor unfortunately added both of these transfers together because they are for two different individuals and two different departments, but let me go through it very quickly. The auditor received two requests earlier this month, one from the Hector Carrasquillo, our Director of Personnel, referring to a Dr. Esteban del Pilar Morales, who was appointed as the Vice Chair of the Board of Health back in March of 2018. His stipend has not been received, and he has money that is owed throughout those months, for which at this moment, part of it cannot be covered within the line item itself. The second one is from our city clerk, who notified the auditor that a Mass General law has been inadvertently ignored since she was elected as our city clerk. That I'm referring to Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 19G, where a clerk or city clerk who serves as a member also of the Board of Register of Voters shall, in addition to any compensation which be entitled to as the city clerk, receive a sum of $50, and if a number of registered voters exceeds 1,000, an additional $50 for each 1,000. There is a cap of up to $1,500 in a given fiscal year. The city clerk should have received a stipend for her full years of $1,300 and an additional $650 for a partial year for when she started working for the city, which would have been her first year for the end of the fiscal year. This, again, Section 19G is not something that has to be accepted by the local community, but something that is a gimme that should have been included within the salary itself. The money is coming from, and I do appreciate Councilor Bartley's concerns earlier, but the money is this time, I think we have a good answer, is coming, and the auditor has signed off on this also, is coming from the auditor's department, pay administrative head clerk. That's the position which the auditor has twice now been before us and told us she is not at the moment looking to fill that position until she has a good year underneath her belt, so she understands exactly what the next person she hires should be doing. She thinks that she can reconfigure some of her office to better serve the city in terms of the responsibilities of the auditor's office itself. So the money is $6,100 coming from that line item, pay head administrative clerk, $250 to the Board of Health, and $5,850 to the Board of Registers, which would make up for the back pay owed to each of these individuals. I would ask that if the city council was ready to act on this, that we would pass the first reading.
Any questions, any counselors? Councilor Bartley.
Yeah, just so I'm clear, just to the chair, to the finance chair, the city is required to pay the commissioners, Joe?
It's actually the city clerk who serves as a member of the Board of Voter Registers, and actually the city clerk who oversees what was formerly the Board of Registers itself.
So who's getting paid on this through the chair? I'm not clear.
Our city clerk.
Okay. This. And as a city, did you say that? So Mr. Shea and Mrs. Egan, were they ever paid this, Mr. To the chair, to Mr. Joe?
I do not know the answer to that.
And so you want us to make it? I for one, with all due respect to everybody, I for one cannot possibly support this on the floor right now on a transfer. I'd like to have a discussion in committee, Mr. President, with the advocate of this position, for this. I don't think. I mean, this is public monies what we're dealing with, Mr. President. We respect everybody in their office. We respect the work that they do. But earlier this fiscal year, we took pretty sizable transfers out of the auditor's office, and we gave raises to numerous city employees. I went along with it. I voted for it. At the time, I said, it's just not the best way to do business. But now what we're being asked to do is to take a transfer, Mr. President, out of another city line budget and give what ostensibly becomes a pay raise to an elected official. I'm not saying that the elected official doesn't deserve it, But I think that I'd like to think about this a little bit more. I want to hear a little bit more from the department head. I want to know if this is now a permanent part of the salary. I'm assuming that it is, but there's probably a few more questions that I haven't even thought about because I didn't really understand what this was, Mr. President. So I'd rather have it go back to committee and to have it, we're meeting on this, the committee's meeting next week, I understand on the 10th. I don't see why we can't, I don't see why we can't just follow regular order, send it to committee like every other financial order, except for the ones that, the ones for, the ILD. I mean, I get why we do that, but every other financial order, generally, we send to committee. I don't see why this has to be accepted.
Yes, Councilor Bagan.
Thank you. And the only question I had is, I don't understand the implications of the Mass General Law, and if it's something we have to separately adopt, or if it's something we already adopted. So I'm not clear on that.
It's stated in here, it's Section 19G, additional compensation for serving as member of the Board of Registrars.
Right. And then there was a reference made to a certain law and some reference made as to whether we adopted it or not. So I'm just not clear about the status of that.
Well, I'd rather do this in committee instead of doing it on the floor. I mean, we're meeting, the committee's meeting next week. I'm going to make a motion, Joe, that we just, send it to committee like every other financial order that you ever do.
Second.
Councilor McGivern.
If that's the wishes of the full body, that's fine with me. Again, the reason I brought it up is this is past due money. It's not a raise. It's past due money to two different individuals. One certainly more significant than the other, but I understand if there are further questions.
It's been voted to send this to back to committee.
That's the motion.
The motion to send back to committee. Have a vote.
We'll just send it to committee. It hasn't even gone to committee yet, so just.
It's to stay in committee.
Just refer to finance.
Refer to finance. Yes. Motion is to refer to finance. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Sent to finance. Those two orders are sent to finance. That's it.
Hit the gas.
Come back.
Councilor Tallman, you didn't get it done. I mean, come on.
What a job. Well done.
We're both going to finance. Okay.
I'm honored to sit next to a president.
45.
Mr. President, make a motion to refer to Committee on Finance.
Second.
45, order that they're hereby appropriated $87,500 from firefighters to Animal Control Board of Health to Finance. All those in favor? All opposed? Late files.
Oh, how many?
How many do we have? 3. Late file A. It's a communication from the Hoyoke Police Department. City Councilors, the Police Department is requesting that Mr. Thomas Spatafor, firefighter, be exempt from Mass General Law, Chapter 286A, Section 20B, Conflict of Interest Law. He was hired as a temporary reserve police officer March 12, 2017. Immediately following, he was hired as a regular full-time firefighter March 13, 2017. He worked as a reserve police officer during the St. Patrick's Day parade festivities. Unfortunately, at the time, it was unknown that he didn't have the exemption. Therefore, asking permission to exempt him to allow him to get paid for his services for parade day details.
To go to finance?
We've done this before, Mr. President. I'm not sure what committee handles it. It was inadvertent on the both departments because of the timing of the way the appointments were made. They told Mr. Spafford he could work the parade weekend as a reserve when they should have recognized that because he got
public service
as a public. Yeah, you should have.
Public service.
Public service, I thought it was.
I have no idea.
We did this to the school committee, or school department
School department, yeah.
Oh, okay. So refer to finance, because it's going to be
Finance,
coming up sooner.
The night of.
I know I did one for the former president, Councilor Dardane, who was doing football games.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. You still can hear him.
We did one for
It
the,
echoes.
Still get free tickets to football games, too.
in Ramon, no, was it? Not
Would
Ramon.
anyone be interested in doing this evening?
Yes.
Motion was suspend the rules to take up late file A. That's a motion?
Yes, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion would be to grant an exception to him in order to get paid and be both on the fire and the reserve.
Okay. Until he's permanently appointed, of course. Yes. This is, I think most people understand that the exception is because state law and city law, you cannot receive two salaries. But there are exceptions. Councilor Durain was one. To coaches are another one. This reserves, it might be the first time we've done it for a reserve and a firefighter. But I don't think he's going to be doing any more reserve work now that he's been appointed. But at the same time, he would like to get paid for what he's already done.
Done, yeah.
Councilor Barley.
I don't have a problem paying anybody for work that they did, but this is a legal exemption?
Yeah, it's Mass General Law 286A, Section 20B. They looked it up because they were trying to pay him and they realized there was the conflict. So that's why they looked up that law in order to allow this.
Are we making mistakes?
Can we suspend the rules? And I think I see the solicitor.
Motion is suspend the rules to allow the legal department.
So I think I can help. You're designating the reserve position as a special municipal employee position is what's happening, and it allows them to get paid as both. So we've done it before for, as people have mentioned, for like the football coach and things of that nature. So there's stipulations on the reserves. They could only make so much money each year, and they can't work during regular hours. So it came up that the firefighters can work as reserves because firefighters are not on call 24/7. Because that was something we looked into. And we confirmed with the fire chief that they have certain hours where they are not ever obligated to respond to a fire. So the reserves was able to be one of these special positions they could work.
Councilor Lisi first.
Thank you. So when we designate the position a special municipal position, are they then not actually classified as a police reservist? And the reason why I'm asking is because I wonder how retirement benefits would then get calculated if they are able to take on a position as a firefighter as their full-time job and then additionally become part of the police department. Because I know that at the end of the day, like police and fire get paid the most benefits in the retirement system. And if we have a single individual who's able to tap into both pots, I think that would put a little bit of strain on the city. So I mean, it's just a question that I have of how it would be classified and if they would be eligible to receive retirement benefits from the police department if they were serving as a reservist.
Oh, wait, to legal, there's a question. What's?
I don't know the answer to the retirement question. The special municipal employee status just allows them to get paid for both positions without dealing with the conflict of interest law.
Councilor Bacon.
This is why we refer these to committee. When they're late files.
We've taken them up. We've taken up before. That
I know, but this isn't
that's
an
fine.
emergency.
You can
So-
refer it to committee.
That would be my motion, to
Second.
refer it to
Motion
committee.
is to refer to finance. I think is what we're arguing. Yeah.
Can
Councilor
we
Mayor.
reconsider the status of our former council president as the voice of Hoyoke High football?
I will call him. No. So motion is refer to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? B is from Councilor McGivern that the city council vote to approve Mass General Law 268A. It's the same thing. So refer to finance. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, so that's the communication. That's the order. And the last one is C, which is Buddha Brothers, a marijuana establishment.
Ordinance.
So it'd be to send to ordinance. Since it's a late file, I do believe one time we sent it to the next agenda just to be
That's fine
clear.
too.
But no, it's up to the law. I'm going to give the full report, which is This group did call me saying that they're gonna try and get in on Friday before 12. Unfortunately, they had a little trouble getting notarized, but.
I'll put it on next agenda, Mr. President.
All right, it's up to you
I'll
guys.
second that motion.
All right, motion is to send to the next agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
Motion
On
adjourned?
that, motion is to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye, thank
All
you.
opposed?